It's time for Michigan's retirement coach, Mike Douglas.
In a world of scroll culture, I'm not even sure if that's a real thing or did I just make it up? I mean, if it's a real thing, but the term. How do you make sense of all of the financial advice that is flooding your feed? I'm Heather Branch. This is Certified Financial Planner Mike Douglas, a.k.a. Michigan's retirement coach. We are glad to have you spending some of your precious time with us because if you have sought out this information Mike is sharing, then you are a hardworking, hard-saving, diligent person who wants to know better and do better. So we are here to share some of Mike's knowledge on all things financial and retirement planning. And in the world that we live in, the digital age, when it comes to planning and information, it doesn't stop. We do make fun of the children hard. They catch a lot of grief about all the scrolling and the addiction to digital. However, we need to take a good, long, hard look in the mirror when it comes to our own adult behaviors.
Yeah.
Comedian Lori Kilmartin was saying how she does consider herself to be a strict mom, and she wanted to make a point with her scrolling son. And I don't have my audio clip ready. So talk amongst yourselves while I find Lori. Here she is. Okay, I found her. This is how it went with her son trying to prove a point recently.
Kids don't know how to use reference books. They just Google stuff. And I think that's actually really bad for their brains, you know? I was raised on encyclopedias. I still have all my childhood encyclopedias for nostalgia purposes. So I took my son to the storage unit. And I said, if you can use these books to tell me who is the Prime Minister of Great Britain in World War II, I will get you a brand new $1,200 iPhone right now. And he goes right to the W encyclopedia. And I was like, oh no, I underestimated him. He's gonna look up World War II. But instead, he tried to look up who was the Prime Minister of Great Britain.
What's the problem, Mom? That's how I do it on the Google. Who? As I was saying, though, we can't make fun of the kids because I have to imagine more often than not when you're having, especially a first-time meeting with somebody that has come to you seeking advice, they come to you and they say, well, I read and I found, and did you see this article? Or do you have clients that will email you links on stuff that they find on the internet?
All the time. The encyclopedia thing is always funny to me. All I can ever think of is with encyclopedias is that Friends episode where
Joey buys the one volume.
All he has money for
the one book.
He buys the V because he finds a 50 in his jeans. And then the rest of the episode, they're like, "How about the Vietnam War?" He goes, "Yeah," and he comments, and they change it to something else, and he was like, "How about that Vesuvius?"
Not Vesuvius.
Yeah. And
that's keep changing it to something else, and he gets disgruntled.
Yeah.
Poor Joey.
I think that it's interesting when you're getting information. We have so much content available right now, like ready at all times, and they will be directly conflicting, and they both seem very right because they speak from an authority point of view.
Yeah, it's convicting, the stuff you'll find too. It seems legit.
Oh yeah, and you have to just really go through and navigate what makes sense and what resonates with who you are. Because to a certain extent, finances have a little bit of subjectivity. Like your family is different than my family, and all those things work. And your risk tolerance is different than mine. So when someone comes along and says, you should use an infinite banking system. Okay, well, listen to it. If you like that, then do it. And some people come along and say, you should be buying a 60-40 bond or equity bond portfolio. I mean, if you want to do that, do it. Like research it, understand it, and do it.
Right.
If someone comes along and says, never do this, I'm always like, all right, they're probably paid by the other side. And so I feel like you can't ever have unless someone says never go bankrupt, right? Like I would agree with that.
Never run out in front of a car. Okay.
But even then, there are times when a bankruptcy can help you reset some things. So it's like you just have to be able to sift through the noise. And there's a great quote that I heard from a podcaster that I follow, and he says signal versus noise. Signal is something that triggers action. Noise is something that distracts you from action. And you want to be able to go through and find the thing that makes the most sense. You have to do due diligence. And I had someone that came to me at church the other day, and a wonderful person. And they came and said, hey, I got this email asking if I wanted to invest in Elon Musk's new AI technology. And I said, that's not real. Not his
First
AI
of all,
technology isn't real, but they're not.
Tell me you did not click on the link that was included in the email. Yeah.
They're not just throwing out random Gmail addresses, pursuing people to invest. Elon does not need my money. They've got, he's got venture people he can take, but there's interesting things. Like, people will hear a concept and then they'll shoot a video about it, not really understand the depth of the concept. Right. So, remember when Elon Musk did buy it? It's funny. He bought Twitter. And when he bought it for $44 billion, right? He didn't, and then he says, well, he sold Twitter stock to get, that's how he used his Twitter stock. Because all they heard was he used Twitter stock or his Tesla stock, I'm sorry. He sold Tesla stock to buy Twitter. Well, that's not the case either. When you have non-qualified stocks, non-IRA stocks, you can take loans against them. And so he leveraged his own company stock to access money to buy, and he got investors to buy. Okay. He never sold Tesla shares to do that. He didn't have to. So there are all these depths to complex issues that sometimes get washed away. So
the headline was he used Tesla stock to buy Twitter, and it's like, technically, yes, but he didn't sell his stock to buy Twitter, which is what the misconception was. He just leveraged it. That's okay. That's a good
he leveraged it, and he collateralized it. And what you do, and people can do this. I have clients who do this. They have these lines of credit. And all they do is they say, I have $500,000 in stock. I want to be able to get access to $500,000. I will collateralize my stock. And then if something happens that I don't pay the $500,000 back, well, then they get to keep my stock. Okay. It's a pretty common practice in non-qualified accounts. But if you just hear the headlines, you have to be able to sift through the noise and get to the signal.
Yep. Okay.
You need to find a channel or a person that you trust and connect with. I think that there are plenty of channels out there where they say, just do this and then subscribe to my channel, which you should do. Click and subscribe to this so that way you can get more content. And then they say, sign up for my service. It's a subscription service, $20 a month. Okay. And I'm not saying that's right, wrong, whatever else. Yeah. But that's the pitch. Yeah. Right. If they say, I'm brought to you by this. I have good friends who have a great YouTube channel, and I think they're brilliant. And they strictly work on cash value life insurance plans. If someone has presented you with a cash value life insurance policy, they will run a comparison to see if it was set up right, because they've got years of experience in that life insurance space. Okay. And they are legitimate, credible guys who know this space so well that they can actually help people with it. And that's become a really great resource for a lot of people. So there are great content creators with good industry knowledge and good experience to know what is signal and what's noise. Okay. On the other hand, there are people who just grab headlines, regurgitate them, and build a following because they're better marketers and branders than advisors. So I think you have to kind of sift through that. The currency of social media is followers and views. Yeah. It's not content. Yeah. Because we trust that if you have a lot of followers and views, that your content's good. On the other hand, if Warren Buffett got on, Instagram, TikTok, whatever, and made a video and he puts it out there and there's no followers or views. Now, if it's Warren Buffett, but people can be like, oh, he must not know what he's talking about. Like people don't respect his opinion. So you have to be able to sift through some of that stuff. Just because someone has a high level of followers, it's like when a celebrity comes out and endorses something, I'm like, ugh, makes me want to buy it less. Like I just, like they're just getting paid for it. They bought a share of the company, and that's why that's why they promote that liquor or that whatever, whatever they're selling. Like that's always something. So you need to find someone whose personality and style and what they say you trust and you feel confident in, and you don't feel like you're being sold to, that you're actually being able to learn freely without an agenda. I also think you need to, in your personal life, if you're working with an advisor or if you are learning through a scrolling or digital age, you have to move at the speed of understanding, and you have to work with someone who moves at the speed of your understanding. We've all been in a room somewhere where someone talks and you go, I don't understand anything that just happened. And we don't want to feel like that about our finances. We want to know that, okay, now I understand that, so we can go on to the next thing. Because one of the frustrations people have when they come talk to us is, I've had this in portfolio. I don't know why it's up. I don't know why it's down. Over the years, it feels like the market's doing this and I'm kind of doing this. Like there's disconnect between their understanding and the results. And that's frustrating to people. You need to move at the speed of your understanding. Do you understand this principle? No. Okay, and then we can't go to this principle until we understand this one. So let's educate, inform, and feel closure on it before we go to the next thing. That's why I like it when, if it's social channels, you should be having basic content into more advanced content, right? But if you're strict, and so for my friends
like the poster, what do you mean? Basic content into more, as the poster should be doing the person who's generating the content or the person as you seek it out?
I think the poster, like I would look for someone who can cover the bases, the content creator.
Okay.
Right. I would want that. So now the exception to that is niche, or like my friends at the life insurance channel.
That's what I was going to say. If they're speaking just to that thing and they're cranking it out.
Here.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
They're in this lane. But the people who come to them have already been educated on it. Mm-hmm. They've already been proposed it. And so now you come to them saying, hey, is this a good proposal? Because now you've worked your way up through the ranks. Okay. But if your first view of cash value life insurance was their channel, it might be a little overwhelming, right? Yeah. So when I first started getting into understanding how HELOCs work and home equity line of credits, there's so many videos on it. But there's these two brothers, the Quack brothers, the Quan brothers, it's a channel. They explained it in the most simple way possible, in a way that I sat down with my wife and my oldest son. And I was like, guys, this makes sense. Yeah. Okay. Then I'm, it's very interesting if you can work that way and go through. So I think there's just two sides to it. But I think too many times people look for the flashy thing or the highest, followership, rather than looking for someone saying, have they been doing this a long time? Can they explain it the way I understand it? And do they get me? And can I actually connect with that person?
Not only do people, for me, the frustration is you are at the mercy of what the algorithm gives you. That's to me is the real enemy.
Yeah.
It's not necessarily the content creators, but when you go looking for something, Google is going to give me something different than it's going to give you, just based on what you and I have searched on things in our history. And same thing with social feeds, is the algorithm is the real rub when it comes to seeking out legit information.
Well, and if you think about, if you watch a video and it's 15 minutes long and you really are trying to understand something and you watch it all 15 minutes and you're just completely confused, then you go to try to find something else. They're like, oh, you like that? Here's more of the same stuff.
Yep.
It's more like of the stuff I don't understand.
You screwed your own self accidentally.
Yeah. Whereas that's why I've been really leaning in a lot to like Google Gemini recently. I think, and I have no relationship with Google Gemini, but it's basically ChatGPT
on Google.
Google's version of ChatGPT.
Okay.
I think it does a really good job of helping you walk through the steps. So for example, we homeschool our kids, and we talked, like my wife was talking about some math stuff that they were working through. And I said, all right, well, how do you think you could have taught it better? Again, because she and my oldest son, they're working through it, and he's doing great. She's doing great. But they had hit a roadblock. And so what they typically, when they hit a roadblock, what they'll do is they will YouTube, Google, whatever, and find a good teacher on that level of content who communicates, and they love it. And so out of my curiosity, I went to ChatGPT, and it was like, how do you find the slope intercept without graphing of an equation? Right? Something I clearly use every day in my regular life, ridiculous. But so I was like, okay. So I went to ChatGPT and I said, how do you do it? And it gave me a bunch of formulas and said, do this, 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 this. And I was like, okay. And I went to Gemini, and Gemini said, first you need to understand this. And then once you know that, then you can go to this. I felt like it gave us a better walkthrough, line by line, play by play.
Interesting. Okay.
So even though I've been a ChatGPT guy, early subscriber, paid subscriber, Gemini is really, in my opinion,
they're stepping up their game.
Well, it is. And I follow several other content people, and they're like, no, like if you're trying to actually learn, like if you just need a quick answer, ChatGPT might be the right one. If you're trying to learn a process, Gemini's better. It reminds me too of when I had Siri versus a Hey Google, right? So if you ask Siri to do something for you, then it'll say, here's a bunch of articles for you to read. Like, here's links, go there and they'll tell you how to do it.
Yeah.
If you asked, hey, Google how to do it, it'll tell you how to do it. So one does the homework for you, one gives you homework.
Okay.
And I think that's just kind of the difference in some of these things. So when you're building out, when you're learning, I know we're kind of weaving a little bit from the original thing, but this is the whole thing. This is the space of scrolling and learning in digital content, right?
Yeah.
Which do I use? Do I use Gronk? Do I use ChatGPT? Do I use Gemini? I don't know. It just depends on what you're trying to do.
Okay.
For me, what I do is I try to put the same question in 3 platforms and see what I get.
See what happens.
Yeah. And that's where, to me, I was like, all right, Kimberly, I think you guys should actually be using Google Gemini when you're working through this. Because not only does it tell you the right steps and how it helps you learn, it links everything. So you click on it says, well, you need to understand this first. Click here for more. You click there and then it'll go more and more. So I think that's how we have to do our finances. We have to get to a point of just like, I don't understand this. Okay, well then stop. Hard stop. Let's double click into it. Let's go deeper and figure out where we need to go from here. Once you understand, like, so for us, we always build our financial plans bottom up: income, safe investments, moderate growth investments, aggressive growth investments, legacy planning. Like that's our typical model, right? If you don't know your income, the rest doesn't matter. Because if you're retired, you have to have income. Otherwise, you got to go back to work. So how much do you need a month? How much do you live off of a month? And how much is coming in from Social Security or pensions? Do we need to solve for income, or are we good there? We're good? Okay, great. Do you understand how you're going to income the rest of your life? Yes, I do. Okay, now we can check that box and move on to the next thing. That's how you have to go with your education. That's how you have to go with your finances. It's how a lot of stuff in life works, right? So I mean, if you're building a house, you don't start with the roof. You start with the foundation in the basement. And then you frame it. And then once you frame, and I'm going to stop there because that's the extent of my building knowledge. Because that's the only trade I worked in was framing. And I did a little bit of tile work. So very little tile work.
Got it.
So yeah, I mean, that's just how it works. And so I think when you're growing and you're developing your skills, and the joke of the encyclopedias, right? Like, I want my kids to be able to do this. I understand that. But that's not the world they're going to live in. Yeah. It's not. And so I don't get mad at my kids for using technology to learn. I don't like them to use technology to cheat, right? Like, if you already know how to do it, right? Like, I'm not a big believer in, you know how to do this type of math. Okay, great. Now do 60 problems that way. I think you do enough to get locked in and then you're done. And every kid's different. But I think that you just have to really make sure that you're growing, learning, doing things a certain way, and doing it in a place where you can be confident.
I think that probably the same could be said then as far as the folks that you work with in your office, that you're not going to get mad at anybody for coming up with this information or this grand idea that they found on the internet, because there are a lot of really great resources and a lot of really great ideas on the internet. When it comes to financial advice, there is just so much blanketed advice available.
I had a client turn me on to the HELOCs, the home equity line of credits.
Okay.
He was like, you need to look at replacing your mortgage with a first position HELOC. And I was like, that's all just whatever. Yeah. He was like, just read into it. And then I did. And over the course of about 2 months, I did a ton of research. And now that's what we use as for our family. We replaced our mortgage with the first position HELOC. And it makes sense because I did but I started out with I think it's the Kwan brothers. I found their video. It made sense. I double clicked, went deeper to the point where I finally was like, I get it. And then I was ready to make some decisions. Okay. And that came from a client.
When it comes to your mortgage, though, you may or may not benefit from a HELOC. We're not saying go get a HELOC.
Recommendation. And it's for my family, for us.
This is just a safe space to talk about the digestion that is the digital world, because there's so much information. I think that when it comes to financial advice, so many people are looking about how to be better with their money, particularly retirees, how to not lose the money they work so hard to earn and save. There is just tons of information. But having somebody, that's what you were saying, Mike, having somebody to be able to bounce the ideas off of and work with in a real space, individualized space, that's what Mike and his team are here for you as far as digesting this information, breaking it down, having an understanding of how it can work and apply to you and your own savings plan. So with all of that said, of course, we are online too. MichigansRetirementCoach.com is where to go if you have questions about things you're reading on the internet when it comes to your financial future. Mike is here to help you understand how it all applies to you specifically. We also have links posted in the show notes, or again, it's MichigansRetirementCoach.com.
Thanks for listening to Michigan's Retirement Coach with Mike Douglas. To learn more, visit MichigansRetirementCoach.com. Michael Douglas is an investment advisor representative of Stewards Wealth Planning, LLC, a registered investment advisor. Financial professionals are not licensed in all 50 states. To find out if Michael Douglas is licensed in your state, please call 517-323-7526. Stewards Wealth Planning, LLC is not affiliated with nor endorsed by the Social Security Administration or any other government agency and does not provide legal or tax advice. Annuity guarantees rely solely on the financial strength and claims-paying ability of the issuing insurance company. By contacting us, you may be provided with information about insurance and annuity products offered through Michael B. Douglas, NPN number 9650939.